I see it like a wall of bricks, and if it's all bricks, then no abundance can come through. But as we investigate how our mind works around abundance and money and so forth, little by little, we remove a brick here, we remove a brick there, and
I
it,
like that.
it can start to flow in there to us.
Well, welcome everyone once again to another episode of Raising the Consciousness of Humanity. My name is Ron Frost and I'm the host. And today I got the lovely experience of being able to interview a good friend, Angelica Redleaf, who is also part of the Center for Spiritual Living Cultural Coast. And we're going to talk about the subject of abundance. Angelica, how are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Well, let me jump in. I found your intro on the Center for Spiritual Living website, the little bio about you. So I'm going to read this for the viewers so they know a little bit of background. Angelica Redleaf has multiple degrees in training. Angelica's background includes the education of anthropology, transcendental meditation, and chiropractic. 38 years in the chiropractic business, Angelica has lived a life of a healer and an educator. She has studied and used applied kinesiology. I got that word right. Sometimes I have a hard time with that word.
It's a tough
Nutrition
word.
and lifestyle counseling. Her books, Behind Closed Doors, Gender, Sexuality, and Touch, in the doctor-patient relationship and boundaries in healthcare, lead have led to lecturing around the country in Zurich, Switzerland. Next, Angelica has led to facilitate of chiropractic.com and also online on essence.com,
OnlineCE.com. Mhm.
onlinece.com, where she is
Those
creating
are,
online curriculum.
yes,
Angelica is a woman of the world and has enjoyed travel, having been in over 49 countries so far. That's amazing in itself. That speaks a lot to the word abundance.
it does, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yes,
Yeah, so I'm so excited to talk to you about this topic because I feel there's a lot of people today, Angelica, that are struggling a little bit with finances or maybe just feeling a bit of lack in their life. So this is a good topic.
it is. And I run across lots of people, you know, and that just brings to mind when I run across people, I'm always attuned to what they're speaking about.
Yeah,
And you can often hear complaints about not enough or not enough money, not enough this, not enough that. And that tells me right away they don't know how to use language properly, because if you hang around people with money, they tend not to talk like that.
you're
Just
right. Yeah.
so you need to, not need, but it would be wise to search for a few people who are successful
Mhm.
rather than only spending time with people who are not successful.
Yes,
If you can do that and listen to them, how they speak
that's true.
and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. Language is powerful, and being aware of our own words, being
Yeah.
aware of what we would call people that maybe are good models of how an
Uh,
abundant or being able to actually have wealth in their life,
yeah.
how they speak. I mean, that's really good. Can you share me a little bit about your insight, like, or your story? Have you always had, you did tell me a little bit before offline that you were good at manifesting money, but have you always had that? Okay.
You know, yes and no. Um, I seem to have had what I needed,
Hmm.
and I don't know what I can attribute that to. I wish I did.
Yeah.
However, along the way, there were teachers,
Mhm.
people who, or something happened that got my attention. Like, I was an immigrant and I was born 9 months after World War II ended, and my mother and grandmother they had been bombed out. Everything was gone. They had nothing. A week later, my mother's father died in an accident. So it's total rug pulled out, rug pulled out. And
Sure.
so I was raised by people, and I was born in Germany, and I remember bomb craters and the rubble of buildings and, but as a child, you don't know much about
Yeah.
that kind of why thing. They just are that way. That's all. You don't really. But I remember when I was 5, and I spent a lot of time alone. I was an only child, and my mother worked, and a lot of times I was alone. And I was walking all around behind our building where we lived. My mother and I lived in a room. Another family lived in another room, and this is an apartment. Lots of families lived in various rooms in that apartment and shared a bathroom and a kitchen because Hamburg, where I was born, had been almost completely devastated.
Really.
So I remember walking next to the bomb crater, walking in the back, and in the distance, I saw one of those traveling amusement parks. And I ran over there all excited, but I found out you had to pay money,
Ah,
and I didn't have any money. So I walked away with my head down, walking toward the house, and there was some money on the ground. I had no idea if I could get a ride, but I ran back and I could get a ride.
nice.
So I don't know, I kind of felt like things would be okay or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was able to take a ride. So that was one time when mm, money got my attention.
Yeah.
Being able to do things. Without money, you can't do it. And then I remember when I was maybe 21, 22, I was a school teacher in Los Angeles. I had moved to LA, and I had a friend, a colleague in the room next to mine, and we hung out a lot. And I learned a lot from her, a very lovely, interesting woman, very educated. Anyway, we went to buy something in a store, and she paid her money to the cashier, and the cashier said to her, "Oh, here's your change," and my friend counted it, and she said, "You gave me too much." That really got my attention because I never thought to do that, like if I got too much, I would just keep it, and
Yeah.
so in that moment, I started thinking about, well, if it's not meant for me, and that's part of thinking like a successful person.
Sure.
You don't need to be taking.
Mhm.
Because that behavior that behavior is noticed in our universe that we're
Sure.
out of alignment with,
Yeah.
you know, the law of cause and effect, I guess. I guess that I don't know. If you take, there'll be some negative consequence. So
Yeah. If you take what's not yours,
yeah,
a lot of people would look at that as karma or different, but a lot of people just kind of a sense of knowing whatever that law or principle that they put with it, sense of knowing that that's not right. And I think, yeah, you're absolutely right about that insight.
yes,
Honesty.
that
It's
got me
called
thinking.
honesty. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It got me thinking. And then I got married. I came back to the East Coast and got married in chiropractic school, and we didn't have much money.
Mhm.
And I was driving a really old car, a really beat up old car. It was a Rambler. That's all I remember. And my mother had gotten a job in a company where her partners, and my mother was a small partner, her partners rented, leased cars through the company. And my mother went to one of her partners and said, am I entitled to a car also? And yeah. She said, well, I don't want one, but my daughter needs a car.
Oh, nice.
Well, they got me a BMW, a brand
Wow.
new BMW.
That's a
Yeah,
little better than a Rambler.
but you would think, wow, how great is that? Yeah, but you know
Yeah.
what? I started driving that car, excuse me, and I realized that I had these ideas about women in BMW and Mercedes,
Yeah.
that they were rich bitches.
Ah.
And I was like, oh my God, am I a rich bitch now? I mean,
Yeah.
it was a very confusing experience.
Sure.
And I was certain that when I wanted to merge into traffic, people wouldn't let me because I was,
Yep.
you know. So that took a long time for me to be okay. Now I have a Mercedes.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
And I don't have a problem, but sometimes people do have a problem.
We sometimes have preconceived notions about in our beliefs about that. Yeah.
Yes. It happened not long ago. I was at Whole Foods and a woman kept going like this to me, come, come, come. And she said, you rich people, you probably push the cart so it would damage my car. And I mean, she was like just like, and her children were there, and her children were there. And I thought, wow,
Wow.
what an education her children are getting.
Yeah.
That rich people, oh, she said, and you don't care about anybody, you just, that kind of thing. So
That's
all
the
these,
beliefs. Yes, she had. Yeah.
so really we have to root out a lot of these beliefs that we have.
Yeah. How do you discover those though? I mean, those what you just shared right there is a very typical reaction of maybe somebody, I guess I would use the word triggered, right? But how did you, I mean, obviously you did a lot of work yourself. How would you suggest to people listening if they have some of those hidden beliefs that may not be serving them that well, especially around the topic of money?
Yeah.
How do they uncover that?
You have to listen to how you talk.
True.
And, if you have a rich friend who has a Mercedes or BMW, you could ask, can I sit in the car and just see how you feel?
Yeah.
And when you see people driving nice cars, what's your reaction?
Yeah.
Or having nice things? What are your thoughts about those? Because those are going to
Sure.
prevent you. That's right there. That will prevent you from having
It's
a better
true.
life.
If envy or jealousy is coming up, that's
Yeah.
a, you're right. That's an energy that's probably not serving you.
No, no. So it's a lot of digging into your thoughts and your beliefs, and it comes out. Now, if you have friends who are also working on becoming more abundant, you can help one another and listen to that stuff.
Yep. Kind of coach each other
Yeah,
or hold each other accountable. Yeah.
there you go. There you go. Just was with somebody who she always complains, oh, too many bills. I don't know how I'm going to pay all these bills. I'm not making money. And I said one day, you might want to talk less about it. Oh, I don't ever talk about, I hardly ever talk about it. It's hard to coach someone when they don't want to see it.
Yep. It's true. Yeah.
You have to be
I,
willing.
you have to be willing. You have to be self-aware and you have to be willing. And so many things that I'm sure you've learned along your life path, as well as through Center for Spiritual Living. I know I speak highly of the Center for Spiritual Living only because there's so many things I've also learned.
Oh, me too.
One
Me
of
too.
them was I forget, somebody said an abundance practice was writing thank you on your bill or thank you on the check that you're using
You can do
as you
that.
pay your bill, how that shifts the energy. And honestly, I feel that works.
That's
I
a good
actually
one.
had I got a bill, I got reimbursed from one bill that they sent me over $100 back. And I paid the total on the invoice.
Wow.
Perhaps there was some sort of rebate they gave me. They sent me money back.
See, you never know.
You never know.
Well, it's a matter, being grateful for being able to pay your bills. I mean, that's really important.
Yes. Yep. It's part of the law of circulation too. We're not hoarding our money. We're you know,
Right.
obviously giving it. In many cases, we probably feel called to give it to certain places. Is it beyond bills? But still, it is a principle of being able to not have the fear inside of us or the worry around being able to pay bills. What other things have you done personally, like in your life, that you felt kind of raised your consciousness around abundance?
Yeah, just the thing. So I was practicing with my first husband, and we were doing kind of okay. Okay. And I found out about a marketing company, a management company,
Yeah,
kind of something like that for chiropractors. So we signed up,
nice.
and we had speakers like Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra.
You
We had
had them?
some of the top people speaking, right?
Wow.
And they had they had, for example, if you wanted to renovate your office, they had architects, they had interior designers you could call upon. They had insurance people who were in it not just for themselves, or
Sure.
all those kinds of people, CPAs, and we went once a month. We drove. This is part of it,
Yeah,
a commitment because we drove with our staff 4 hours. We were in Rhode Island to get to Long Island. And then 4 hours back after a long day.
yeah.
You know,
Wow.
and we paid plenty. I remember it was like 6,000, I don't know, a month, a year. Must have been a
Yep.
year. Must have been a year
So,
initially.
so there
Yeah.
was commitment of time and commitment of money.
And we paid our staff, you know,
Nice.
took them out to, the whole thing. And we became more of a team because I learned that um, let's say you have yourself, a spouse, and three employees. Now, everybody has their ideas about money and abundance.
I'm sure.
And so if there's one person who sees, I don't know, 3,000 a month is the top that they would feel comfortable coming into the office.
Yeah.
Everybody else is above that. There's that one link that can really drag you down.
Hmm.
So by taking the whole staff and having them become more open to abundance for us, I don't know, not so much them, but maybe they learned a lot as they,
Sure.
you know, so that made a big difference.
Yeah, and that's nice of you to be able to bring the whole team.
And we needed it,
Yeah,
you know, everybody really needed that. So, yeah, we did that maybe 4 or 5 years.
nice. And you mentioned some authors there, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra. I'm sure most of our listeners know who they are. Did you find even within them or their books, or is there a particular book that if you were to suggest to the audience, maybe one book or two books, or who to listen to on YouTube? Do you have any advice around that relative to
About about
abundance?
about abundance.
Yeah.
About abundance. Hmm. Let me think on it. Let me think on it. We'll keep talking and
Okay.
something will
Yeah.
I mean,
Because Wayne Dyer is one of
think of
my
the
favorites, and I know he
name.
does. Yeah, Wayne Dyer. He's one of my favorites.
He's awesome. I
He's
remember
awesome.
reading his first book, Pulling Your Own Strings. That was in the 70s. And I
Nice.
had some personal contact with Wayne when he was alive.
Yeah.
I had one because I wrote that book, Behind Closed Doors, Gender, Sexuality and Touch, and the
Yep.
doctor-patient relationship. So I was a speaker at Parker Seminars, which meets every 2 months around the country. And Wayne Dyer was a big speaker there. And when you're a speaker on, okay, the main speaker speaks Friday night. And if you are on the program to speak Friday lunch, the main speaker speaks to that group. So I met him, I waited to talk with him after he gave our talk and after lunch, and I gave him my book, and talking with him was like there was nobody else on the planet,
Yeah.
us, just the two of us. I don't think I've ever had that experience before or since.
It's and Angelica, thank you for sharing that because that is an area, right, of abundance. We think of only money, but attracting people into our life or these chance conversations with people, there's so much value,
Yes,
and that alone is very abundant. So yeah,
beautiful man.
yeah.
Yeah.
So any other things that like if somebody
What else?
had
Oh, okay. All right. Something came to me that it would be a good idea because I see people all the time. Oh, I don't have any cash on me.
yeah,
Everybody should have at least $100 bill plus some other smaller bills so that you're not feeling like I'm down to my last dollar or $2.
yeah,
That gives you a feeling of more abundance.
to have it
And
with you, yeah.
and what else? What else would I suggest? Well, really, more than anything, root out what the conversations were with family members or in your family about money. Because if it
Well,
was mostly lack, you have some work to do because that's ingrained, deeply, deeply ingrained, and you don't even realize it.
yeah.
So if you can remember some of those conversations, that would be really good.
Yeah, no, that could be some what do you call it? Contemplation and journaling.
Yes, very good. Very good. Because you have to know what your background was because that is influencing every moment of your day,
I'm sure it is.
whether
Yeah,
you abundantly or not. We were very poor, but my mother always thought big.
yeah,
She worked 2, 3 jobs, but she was an interesting character, an interesting person. Always big.
yeah. And our parents, their attitudes and beliefs rub off on us.
They do. They do.
The words that they may share with us, but I think just their way of being. And I know I've got two beautiful parents myself, and you sometimes reflect and realize, like I was the other day saying, I just said what my dad would say.
What was that? What would he have said?
Well, it was about air conditioning running while the windows are open.
Oh, okay.
You
Wasting
know,
money, throwing money
but
away.
yeah. So, but honestly, he did very, very well in his life. So I don't know if that belief affected him in a negative way or not. He actually did very well around abundance and money. But I do notice when I pick up that sensitivity of not wanting to see something foolishly wasted. So I mean, that's just one example, but you're right. We're around our parents a lot, more so than most when we're in our early years. And so therefore, those words such as money doesn't grow on trees or yeah, yeah,
Right.
we
Or
have
don't take a
those.
chance, or don't take a chance with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That we don't even know. We don't even know how that's impacted us and continues.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I feel it, and I guess if our listeners are listening to this, I'm going to ask you this question. I feel it as an emotion. Do you see the connection with that, Angelica?
Yeah, almost like a victim, like almost like one is
Yeah.
a victim to circumstance and one cannot get out of it. For some, life has happened to us instead of we can step beyond that
Yep.
and participate with life as an abundant human in an abundant universe.
Yeah. I would say what you're hitting on right there is clarity about the self, clarity about,
It starts right there.
yeah, about listening to the inner self. So going back to the authors and the question around that,
Uh-huh.
my
Yes,
thought was, what about if we, I mean, I always loved The Science of Mind.
yes,
It's a big book, but I think it's always spoken to me in such a way that I felt was very empowering.
yes.
Is any other books around that? Like,
What are, just trying to think, I don't have, how about Think and Grow Rich?
that's a good one.
Think and Grow Rich is a really good one. Dale Carnegie is another one.
Yeah, Dale Carnegie's material has always been very good.
But the Think and Grow Rich, because it's our thinking.
Yeah,
I think he used, well, I don't know if he was the one who said stinking thinking, I mean, if our thinking is not right, then how can things how can things happen that are good? How can we bring abundance?
yeah. And if we don't have our own abundance, how can we serve the world?
There you go. So it's like we talked about at the very beginning. I see it like a wall of bricks, and if it's all bricks, then no abundance can come through. But as we investigate how our mind works around abundance and money and so forth, little by little we remove a brick here, we remove a brick there, and
I
it,
like that.
it can start to flow in there to us
I
instead
like
of
that.
that's a good one, right?
Yeah, no, that's a perfect analogy. And
Like excavating.
yeah, once we discover the brick and we remove it, it doesn't mean we don't have other bricks, but
Right?
the the
But there's
vision
an
gets
opening.
there's
There's
an
that.
opening and the vision gets clearer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Boy, Angelica, you should write another book on abundance.
yeah. I don't know. Book writing, I have written other books, but I know the marketing is it's that's that
Yeah,
I see marketing as maybe two-thirds of the writing of the book and the
sure.
actual writing and so forth, maybe one-third, because it
You could
really
always
takes so much dedication.
you can always come on another podcast and I would help you with that marketing.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. That's so sweet. That's very sweet. Anything else?
Well, I think your insights have been great, and I've been mentally noting them. The child scenario of the ride that you weren't able to go on, and then finding the money and being able to go on a ride was the initial impression of you shared the words, I knew that I was going to be okay.
Somehow there was
That's
that feeling. It was a good feeling that I
a good
had.
feeling. Yeah.
Good feeling.
Yeah. And then how you talked about just the words being around other people that have the experience of wealth and wealthy thinking, wealthy habits, wealthy language. I think that's important. So, yeah, you shared several tips there that honestly were some of the ones that I had forgotten.
Oh, and something else just came to me. Being generous.
Nice.
If we hold on tight, it's our problem right there. But just being generous.
Yeah.
And I know somebody now who's doing well financially and is very cheap. It's very cheap.
Yes. Yeah.
Is always looking for somebody else to pay, is always waiting, doesn't pull out her wallet. So these are I really believe these acts are important signs to the universe that you're not ready for abundance.
That's true. Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head with that one because what good is money in the bank if we're not creatively using it or expressing it? And if we're so restrictive, and I hate to use the word cheap, but that's
Oh,
the
go ahead.
right,
Cheap is a good
right? But again, that mindset is a little bit of mindset of fear. There's not enough going around. That's a lack mindset. And the law of circulation is one where we are truly expressing it. It,
Yes.
I think that's what you hit on is very important. It's hard to grasp that when you have exactly like nothing. You're struggling from paycheck to paycheck. But I believe it's necessary to create the flow. It's like if if you had the fear around not having enough air, and because of that you chose to stop breathing, you wouldn't last very long.
No. And another thing I see is people seem to have this feeling that there is just so much around, and it's almost like a pie. And
Only,
if these people have taken that, then there's nothing for me, or
yeah,
there's is a limited amount.
yeah,
So the thinking really, yeah, this is where affirmations and reading books by authors who write about abundance. I mean, any book you pick up, there's going to be something you're going to learn that will help to um, improve your thinking and your vocabulary.
yes, yeah, beautiful, beautifully said. Once again, the words of you knew you were going to be okay. You
Yeah.
understood language. You applied it to your life. The last one you shared about the law of circulation, Angelica, these are all great things for our audience. And
Thank you.
any
Thank you.
any other final words that or insights that you might want to share?
Well, I did want to speak very briefly about immigrants, having been one,
Yeah.
and having uh, in my practice in Rhode Island, in Providence, Rhode Island, uh, the first 10 years or so was mostly blue collar white, but then people came from all over the world.
Hmm.
And I love traveling and I love people from all over the world. There's so much richness. There's so much, so much to be learned. And I loved being able to build bridges between myself. I don't know if I told you this story, but I'll never forget that it was at the front door. There was a lucite little holder for folders, and I saw the name of my next patient, and it was Sirleaf.
Hmm.
And I knew, say, I like knowing what's going on in the world. So I knew that the new president of Liberia was Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And I went in and I said, Mr. Sirleaf, are you Liberian? Yes. How is your new president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, doing? And he said, she's my cousin.
Wow.
So here, this big black African man and me, so we have a little bond because I know a little
Sure.
something about the country and his president, his cousin.
Yeah.
So I loved all that. And there's so much richness. And we talked about you also. There's so much richness with all of that because people come here and they have fresh eyes looking at our country and how we do things and how everything works and how to make it work in this place. And I think they deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah, you're right. If it's amazing how so many immigrants have done such an amazing things, and yet
Yes, yes.
what I would see when looking around at there's many people that were born and raised in this country and raised in very good comfort, but
Maybe
they
too
com
much.
but
Maybe too much.
yeah, but they complain or they don't see the opportunities. They feel they're limiting, and yet you'll see somebody that comes from another country, whether it's Germany, Africa, or wherever it may be,
Wherever.
and they do something that's inspiring. They do something that's inspiring.
And
So
make something of their life,
yeah,
and then they try to give back many
and
people,
that's nice.
you know. I mean, I feel very grateful that I was able to do something. I was very determined to make something of my life. I looked around. I have to get an education, and any opportunity I grabbed, I did,
And that's beautiful. And I love the words you just shared, being grateful.
and being grateful.
Isn't that a great, I mean, that's alignment with abundance.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Angelica, this has been a beautiful moment. I'm so glad that we're able to do this recording.
Me
And
too. Yeah.
yeah, just to, as final words, I guess I guess let the audience know that you're a board member for the Center for Spiritual Living Cultural Coast.
Yeah.
You're there every Sunday.
Yes.
And where do we meet?
At the Sarasota Garden Club, at the
Nice.
intersection of 41 and Boulevard of the Arts.
And it's at
And
11,
I'm there.
and you're
At
there.
11 o'clock every Sunday. That's
And
right.
people can visit online too.
Absolutely.
Nice.
What's the website? Center for
CS,
Spiritual Living. No,
I think it's CSL. I just had it open,
Cultural Coast
cslculturalcoast.org.
.org. There you go.
I'll put that up here on the
Okay,
screen.
good, good.
So,
Yeah, and come by and visit, and I'll welcome you. And we can have a nice
absolutely,
chat.
absolutely. Well, audience members, you heard that from Angelica Redleaf. Uh, the topic of abundance, and if you want more abundance in your life, as well as learning a little bit more about all the spiritual principles that will help to empower you and help to,
Absolutely.
yeah, to change our thoughts, change our life. We change our life, we change the world too. So,
Right.
Angelica, thank you so much. I will be looking forward to maybe doing another interview with you in the future.
Sure. Let's do it.
All
Thank you.
right.
You're
Thank you.
terrific.
All right.
Thank you, Ron.